everybody. Welcome back to the Make Trades Great Again podcast. Andy, we have a special guest today. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah.
So our guest today, he before we introduce him, we're going to see if anybody can guess who it is. I guess they're probably going to know because it's going to be in the title, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably going to be on the title.
See, we can't even do that game now. I thought I had this game in my head that was going to be really just quite fun and riveting, but okay, let's just let the cat out of the bag. Let's welcome him to the show. First time caller, long time listener, Denver Baker. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing good. Denver, you own MD Heat and you are in, let me get this right, Traverse City, Michigan?
Yep, I'm just outside of Traverse City, Michigan, about 10 minutes outside of town. My shop is in Kalkaska is where it's at. So a little outskirt area of Traverse City.
I bet you somebody listening to this podcast lives in your town.
You never know. Maybe. Probably not, though. Probably not.
Hey,
Yeah.
man, geez. No. We got listeners all over.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly.
God, come on, man.
Come on, man.
I'm guessing that somebody from your family or your shop's going to listen to this, so I think my statement was correct.
That is correct. Yeah. My one guy that works with me, he was saying, "Let me know when you're recording and when it's going to go live, and send me the link. I'll listen to it." So
Yeah.
Andy, we met Denver online. We haven't met in person yet. Is that, or you guys haven't met, have you?
Nope, not yet.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
Okay.
Just on the IG and the Facebook and House Call Pro and a handful of other places.
That's right. We have that in common too. We're all
Mhm.
HCP.
We're all pros. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
we're
right.
HCP pros or whatever
Yeah.
the hell it is.
Exactly.
That's going good for me though.
I
I'm
love
serious.
it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's the best thing. Doing that has simplified everything from top to bottom for me. Let alone texting with customers. I always used to think that back in the day, texting with a customer was inappropriate.
Right.
Really?
And I thought it was more sense, because I had girls in the office that would make the phone calls, and we would call, or we would text the girl in the office and say, "Hey, we're on our way," and then they would call. But with texting the way it is now, a predominant conversation, with me and my customers is through text.
I remember when I changed my voicemail to tell people text me.
Yep,
If you want to get a hold of me faster.
exactly.
And people were like, "Oh,
That's really easy.
that's easier." And then some people were like, "That's kind of weird. Like I've never," and I'm like, "Get over it."
Yeah,
And that was like
so much
4
faster.
years ago. And now people are like, they don't need that. It gets to the voicemail, like the end of the call when they're calling you.
Yep.
Or you've like pushed it to that point on your end.
Right.
So they're either forced to listen to your message or hang up. They almost always just hang up and like a 1 minute later, "Hey, I need this done."
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I've noticed and I'm in the process of changing this. I had 2 offices. I had one in Elk Rapids, which is north of Traverse City, and then I have my shop that I'm in right now in Kalkaska, that's east of Traverse City. And we had 2 phone numbers. So what'll happen is the phones are directed to me, and so they'll call the first number that they still have, and then if I don't answer, then they hang up and they don't leave a voicemail. They immediately call the other number. And then they just keep going and going and going until they get to somebody. And now I'm going to change it to where it says that same thing. Text me, because I'm in the field. I can't answer all the time.
Well, it's interesting to see that, because I was the same way for a long time, and
Right.
so was my wife. Because she was for the last I guess 3-4 years now.
Right.
Has ran like all that logistics of handling and scheduling and dealing with customers and whatnot. She's handled that portion of it for us. And she's always, ever pre-HCP was like, don't text. We don't want people texting us work orders. So we don't want that. And largely we still don't.
Okay.
I don't want that kind of stuff.
And I guess the biggest challenge we have with the text, I love the text communication, like, "Hey, I'm on my way," or "Can you send me a picture?"
Yep.
That kind of data transfer. But if you need something, please call.
Right.
Put a voicemail, because
exactly.
we don't have a backlog of 1,200 voicemails to listen to.
Yeah.
But if everybody started texting us, there might be a boatload of text messages that were just flat missing because there's no way to text.
Well, and then the other thing too that comes about with that, and I have a customer that he always does this. If he has an issue, he's been a long-standing customer of mine. But when you start the process of texting with the customer, it opens up the door of they can text you at any point in time that they want.
Yeah.
And so like his boiler was down, and he texted me at 4:30 in the morning. And it's like, I'll be honest, I do the whole 24-hour service thing, but my phone is usually on silent when I'm in bed. And so, it'll vibrate or something, and sometimes I'll wake up from it. But yeah, you open yourself up to, and he's the type of texter that won't do one like long text. He'll do like 16 of them in a row, and gosh, that's one way to get me mad.
That's a fireable offense right there.
Yeah. Hey, dude. My boiler doesn't work.
Yeah.
Are you awake?
All different messages. Like, come on, dude, really? Oh my God.
I have a customer that's like that, and he's my age too. I went to high school with him. Current customer or newer. Yeah. Well, okay. So I don't want to talk about texting all day, although it is fun.
Yeah.
You mentioned a minute ago you had 2 offices, and that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today. So off air, you and I had talked, and then we talked briefly, the 3 of us today already, but you had brought up kind of a little bit of your history with MD Heat. And is it Mike in Denver? Is that your dad's name, Mike?
That's what. Yeah, my dad's name is Mike. Yep, that's where that came about.
Yeah, so you guys started MD Heat way back, right?
Yeah. So the way that everything happened with me, my dad previously owned a company down in Kalamazoo, which is where we're originally from. Which is, I know people can't see us, but down here. As far as obviously, I'm from Michigan, so obviously I'm way to do it with the map that way.
He's pointing to the south end of Michigan.
Southwest Michigan. And so he had a very large company down there. He started that when I was, I was 8 years old, I believe I was. And he had 52 employees. So it was really big, non-union. We have never been union or anything like that. But he did a ton of new construction. When the housing market was booming, they were doing upwards of 300 homes a year. So I started in that as far as getting my feet wet in his insulation company. He had Mike Baker Heating and Cooling, Mike Baker Insulation, and then DeBaker Mechanical, which was in a different town. So he started that, got really big, ended up basically having to close the company down, went through a divorce. And so he ended up closing that, moved up to Traverse City, took a job with a heating contractor up here. I followed suit, came back up, and started, we started MD Heat. I came up in 2010, February 2010. We opened May of 2010 for MD Heat, and we've been going ever since. So,
wow. That was quick too. And so was it just the 2 of you when you started out, or how did that
So
unfold?
It was the 2 of us when we started out, but it was just him primarily. We did not have enough customers to support 2 full-time guys. So I actually indirectly, what I did was I was a roofer. So I started heating and cooling when I was 13 years old, did that from 13 till now, essentially off and on. And so I ended up roofing because I could still be in the trades, essentially. Roofing is horrible, by the way. My back still hurts from it. But so I would do roofs because I could work in the summertime on that. And then up here in Michigan, obviously you guys are fully aware, it's cold. So we're really busy in the wintertime. And so I would actually be laid off from the roofing company I was a foreman at. And I would go back to heating and cooling. We built up the customer base that way with me being just part-time. And then I fully went back 100% with MD Heat in 2016.
Wow. So you did the roofing for a while.
The roofing. I actually started that when I moved up here in 2010. I kind of bounced around a couple jobs till 2012. And then I did that roofing from 12 to 16. And then ever since I've been back full-time with MD Heat doing my thing.
You know what they say? The only thing higher than a roof is the roofer.
The roofer. Yeah, exactly. For us, though, I will tell you, the roofing company I worked for, they had very high standards. And it was sometimes detrimental because then we didn't have enough guys to get things done. But they were a very tight knit company. It was a husband and wife team, and that company had been around since 1981. They're still in business. I still talk with them all the time. So very, very good people. But yeah, that's comes with the trade as far as that for roofers. That's for sure.
So it's 2016. You went full time.
Yep.
At that point in time, you had built up your customer base?
Yep.
So you're 6 years into it, Andy. At 6 years, you were hiring your first guy.
Yeah, somewhere it might have been hiring the second guy.
Second guy.
Yeah, I think I hired the first one at 5, and then hired the second one at around 6.
Sorry, I won't name any names. I didn't mean to.
That's all right.
It's all good. Sign a waiver. No,
just bleep
it. Somebody long gone. I'm just being dumb. So you had a couple guys, maybe around 6 year mark. I'm still at 0 guys. Barely myself. You know what I mean? Like some days I wonder.
Hard to get him out of bed.
Yeah, I'm 17 years in this thing.
Yeah.
I want to say not quite. But well, I don't know. Maybe it is that long. But at that point, you started hiring, didn't you? I mean, isn't that kind of what you were saying in our conversations before, Denver? Is that you had?
Yeah. So,
I don't know. I guess I don't know the timeline exactly.
Yeah. So when I came back full time in 2016, my dad had hired a office girl, had a showroom, and had 2 employees, and then on top of himself, so two field techs, I should say.
Yeah.
And so then I came back in, and then from 2016, I was strictly doing just what I'm doing right now, service and install. And then I wanted to start building it up more and more and more and more. And I took over the company 100% ownership in about, technically it was 2010. I was considered 100% ownership, but we changed it from an LLC to we're a C Corp now. So I had to change that. So that was in 2018 when we did that. And I got it up to 13 total employees between 18 and 20 or 21, somewhere in there. I had 13 total employees. I had two offices, and a lot of headaches, essentially, is the biggest thing I would say.
That 13, how many of those were staff and, administrative staff?
So I had two girls. One girl was in the Elk Rapids office, and one girl, which is actually my stepmom, she was in the Kalkaska office. And so I had those 2 girls, and then I had the crews split. So I had a commercial crew. We used to do every single Family Dollar and Dollar Tree in the state of Michigan, all the new ones. So we did every one of those. We would travel all over for it.
You got to go to the moon and stuff, like, because
pretty much
colonizing there.
Open field. Yeah. There's like, oh, hey, this open field where there's like 2 people in this town.
It looks like
put a freaking Dollar Tree.
Yeah. Plowed that parking lot. Oh, by the end of the day, it's gonna be a Dollar Tree.
Exactly. Yeah. So we had the commercial crew, and then we had 2 residential crews, and so we would typically do, every day would be an install for the crews and whatnot. And we were chugging along and whatnot, but it was a sense of having to constantly make sure you can keep everybody busy. And that means sometimes sacrificing profit, sometimes sacrificing home time, and sometimes, and I hate to say this, but sacrificing quality of the installation sometimes, because these guys you're rushing them through half the time when that's not the way to do things. It doesn't benefit.
Because you had too much work? More than you could handle?
Exactly. And you end up getting to a point where you're like, oh, let's just get in, get out, get to the next job. And then that doesn't benefit you, because then, and we all know now with, all this online stuff, a bad review can really kill you. And so you're sacrificing that as far as a potential bad review. The customer could potentially be unhappy. And then you yourself are then going to dig deeper into your profit margin, because maybe you got to go back or something like that. But it's a vicious cycle when you have that many people and you're just trying to keep them busy, especially in my town. I think that's the biggest thing here in my town is, I'm not. It's not a big city. And Traverse City, you think it's a big city, but we are almost predominantly just strictly vacation. It's a vacation town.
Okay.
They call us, like the Caribbean of the North kind of deal, because our water up here is darn near looks like the Caribbean, as far as how it's like a turquoise color, stuff like that. So we have the two big East Bay and West Bay. So it's a humongously large vacation town, but not a lot of those people are staying. They don't own homes and stuff like that. So you're doing anything and everything you can to keep your guys busy on installs when those folks may not even own homes here.
That's a tough kind of community to work in full time.
It is.
I'm lucky too where I live, where I can go 45 minutes north of me, which is not a long commute.
Right.
When you look at like metro areas and stuff, I'm talking rural area, but just 40 to 45 minutes. And I'm deep in the heart of like cabin country.
Right.
That just in that short of distance. Right. And the people have cabins. It's kind of funny because people around me have cabin, like come to my area and they own like a little vacation lake home. And I think it's funny because I live here and it's not like a community like that. Does that make sense? So like people are like, yeah, our cabin. I'm like, where's your cabin? They're like, it's like 5 miles from my house. I'm like,
exactly. Yeah, well, and the same thing. It's funny too, because the if you look it up, Torch Lake is like the big time. Like Eric Silva, he comes up here to Torch Lake quite a bit. I talk with him and whatnot. But the homes, when people say they have their cabin, right, and we're going up to the cabin, it's a 10,000 square foot cabin. And there's that too. It's like, come on, you serious right now? Like, I need you to service my 4 furnaces here, blah 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 blah. So we've built it up good with the maintenance thing, as far as for the homeowners that are not here. The last two days, the 2 installs that I've done, the homeowners weren't there. We would just get a code, or we have here in my shop, we have a key box. It's a safe, and every key is labeled, and we just have everybody's house key.
Check out the key.
Yep. And you just say, hey, I'm going to this one, and unlock it, lock it back up, take photos once you're done, and send it to the homeowner.
Right on.
Yeah.
The day and age of having keys, I was just going through some keys, and they're not labeled.
Oh, yeah.
Like an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have 3 keys I can't identify, and they're all just Schlag locked, like residential. And I'm just like,
son of a
hell.
Yeah.
I guess at least I can just put them on one ring, and then when I show up to each house, I'll be like, which one is it?
You'd be like the janitor at the school that just has it just dangling off the side. There's a gazillion keys.
They're going to be watching in the Ring doorbell, like, what is this guy doing?
Well,
he's got like 63 keys.
I know.
What the
Well,
are they billing me for this 15 minutes of trying to figure out the key?
He said he had a key.
Okay, guys, hold on. They are literally the reason why I was going through the keys was I was verifying that I had a garage code.
Yeah,
and so you got to kind of be careful how you keep that kind of information, right? And so, but I was going through my customer database on HCP, and I was making sure that what was in my phone was in the database. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
So in my contacts, I had this person's garage code, and I'm like, maybe just it's never going to be a problem, but what if it is? So I took it out of my phone and I put it in House Call Pro instead, right? So it's less likely to be an issue. And so then I was doing that, and I'm like, I have a couple keys that I figured I actually have 3 or 4 keys that I don't have an identity. Point being is there's a mix now of like either garage codes or people have smart locks, which I prefer over anything because they can unlock and lock, and I don't even have to even like touch them. I love that.
Yeah.
And then I have the keys, and I want to get rid of the keys. So I was trying to figure out whose keys these are.
Yep.
I don't know. And I want to contact those people and be like, I want to give you your key back.
Right.
Or can I just throw it away? And then like, can you do something better than giving me a key? Is there internet? But some cases there's not though.
Yeah.
You get that hunting cabin that's like literally out in the middle of like, 15th generation farm that was, and somebody put a shop up there and they're like, that's our hunting shop, and they don't have internet.
I've got to go on Monday to give an estimate for a Navian for a tankless. And I asked the guy, I said, what's the address? And he's like, well, it doesn't really have an address. He's like, you're going to get, it's in a town called Alba. You're going to be at this intersection. Go to the airport. It's a strip of, like grass that planes land on. And he's like, you're going to be, go halfway down. It's a mile long runway. You're right in the middle. On the north side, you'll see the cabin in the woods. The key is under this rock, blah, blah, blah. It's what the hell, dude?
Can you pin drop this?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, come on.
So we have a good mixture here. We have the homes that are, just these multi-millionaire mansion type things. And then we have just a hole in the wall type thing that's in the middle of the woods that is, it's a weird mixture here for sure.
When we were transitioning over to House Call Pro a year ago, I was going through some contact info that I had in the invoicing software that we used before that came up and flagged as an error. Right. In your migration. Yep. And I'm looking at it and it's a similar thing. It was like, well, go on 6 Mile Road and go, 11.3 miles and then turn at the Red Barn and then at the old hay wagon, turn to the right and follow that for 6 miles through the meadow. And, we get some of these places that'll cross in and out of like federal land.
Okay.
So you'll have like U.S. Forest Service. So you'll drive on a Forest Service road for 12 miles. And then you're going to turn off of that onto another Forest Service road, and then you end up in this like cluster of private land. Yeah, that was some sort of land trade in the '60s, and
right in the middle.
There's
everything.
A house out there,
freaking 1860s apparently.
Some of it. Yeah, I've got a video.
Montana's a big old place. That's all there's to it.
Yeah, I got a buddy that's building a house out there in Montana right now, and nice. He's doing it himself, and it's a pretty area there where he's at. But there's no, he just bought the land essentially, and there's no running water, and it's like the way he's describing it is like a old Western that you'd see like Clint Eastwood or Jeremiah Johnson going on thing. And he's like, well, the guy blocked off the water so it couldn't come down the mountain and I couldn't get it into my reservoir area. And so we had to go up there and had the police come out and everything. But it just sounded like a very different experience than what I'm used to.
It's not that way everywhere.
Right.
But the number of instances where somebody has, I don't know, I'm gonna call it settled because that's what they did.
Right.
At the end of some gully or something like that and said, hey, I did my mining claim here when I was in my 20s and here's my mining claim. And it's like some of it, you just go, wait, really? You've literally lived at the end of the gully here by yourself for 60 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you go to town once, twice a month. Still.
A month. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're like, you what?
Yeah.
There's people that are doing it. It's like, we're not in the Klondike.
No, exactly. Where he's at, he's in Big Sky. Big Sky, Montana. He's
down by Bozeman.
Something sheep something. I can't remember. Something about sheep.
Of course it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course it is. Yeah. There's a lot of sheep down there.
Yeah, tons of sheep.
Yeah. Is he single?
Oh, okay. So hold on.
We're off track.
We are off track.
We are off the rails.
This is like a steamship.
Oh man.
We're moving slowly back toward the direction we started.
Yes.
So it's 2018, 2019. You're growing. You got 13 people in the MD staff, including yourself, right?
Correct. That included myself. Yes. Yep.
And you're out there trying to find work basically at this point, and everything is challenging because you've got a ton of work, but I mean, find work meaning like make sure everybody's busy. And that's really like,
that's the biggest thing.
Biggest takeaway, isn't it?
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. At that point, what I was doing was just trying to make sure that, because I am the type of guy that does not want to be like, even if I don't have a job to send somebody to that day, I'm not going to be like, just stay home. I'm not paying you. Okay. I'll find something else to do. Like, let's clean the shop. Yeah. Let's organize the vans. Let's organize our trailer. Let's redo the showroom or something like that. And I still have a showroom here where I'm at now, but I don't really stock it like I used to. After COVID, showrooms, especially for heating and cooling, Pointless, absolutely pointless. I had 2 of them, and it was great when it was open, but they're pointless now. But yeah, I was just trying to keep everybody busy, and just as far as doing that, where you'd have a standard install where it would be an X amount of dollars, and it's like, okay, well, where do I got to go to make sure I get the job in terms of how much do I have to drop the price just to make this customer go with me and still try to maintain a profit as far as,
because you needed a job for that crew
to go to
next week sometime.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was, on our commercial end, it was easy as far as that. For, like I said, we did every Family Dollar and Dollar Tree in Michigan, and we were doing it for a company out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We had set prices. It was always a 6-week job, and they would just give us a timeline of how many stores they were going to open. And we just basically had the contract for it. It got to a point where we didn't even really have to bid on it because it was so cookie cutter the same. Sometimes it would be, it would change and we'd have to do something different. And we'd bid that out. But for the most part, it was always the same scenario. And so those were easy. I didn't have to worry about that. I could keep that crew going. But then in that sense, okay, so then now I'm taking myself away from home to then go do those jobs, whether I have to help on it for a day or 2 or something like that. Well, then I'm going 3 hours away from home base. And if something goes wrong, nobody's there to actually, correct it or something like that. Or if a customer has a problem.
But then also COVID happens.
True.
And construction at that point, I mean, we all know what happened when COVID, ramped up. But first, basically the first year or 6 months, let's say, of COVID, it was kind of service only.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because people were like, well, wait a minute. I mean, first days and weeks, like, I don't even know if I want people in my house.
Can we even go anywhere? Yeah.
So you had install crews.
Right.
How did you handle that?
So those guys, when that whole thing, when we shut down, when Whitmer shut everything down, as far as saying, you can't go out anywhere besides essential stuff. Install crews, then effectively we did have to lay them off. They just went on unemployment, and then we just told them, as needed, we will call you. The one thing that kind of stunk for one of my guys, he's just no longer with me. He actually moved back to his home state of Illinois. He was my service tech. When he started working for me, he did not have enough hours to qualify for unemployment. So when we had to lay him off basically and tell him, hey, I don't know what we can do for you. So we ended up, we took his wage and we doubled it. And so anytime he did have to take a call, then he'd get double his wage. So he went upwards of like 55 or something an hour. And so from there, maybe it was like 40 an hour or something. I can't remember where it was at. Anyways, we doubled his wage somewhere between 40 and 50. And so when he ran a call, he would at least kind of make out okay as far as that goes. And we'd find like little piddly stuff to put him on and stuff like that because he didn't qualify for unemployment. But everybody else, they went on unemployment until they started relaxing restrictions a little bit. And, some stuff you got to change people's equipment out, and you had to do what you had to do kind of deal. So,
yeah. No, that was, I'm glad we didn't end up that way. The Montana governor they were definitely not a, hey, everybody stay home thing.
Yeah.
There was this whole essential services thing around the country, but
right.
Largely, I mean, stores were closed and all that stuff, but we took like a week and a half where, I think I'm +1 from where I was at there then in 2020. And, we spent like a week and a half. I don't know. It wasn't even that. I think I sent the guys home on like a Thursday or something like that because I was supposed to go meet Eric in London.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That probably didn't happen, did it?
No. Well, Eric
there's a story. There's a story there.
But we didn't go, and so spring break was right there. So we ended up doing our spring break thing, and when we came home was when it really set in.
Yeah.
And
we're talking like literally the first days, like
right,
the first 10 days
of everything.
like Trump was on the TV saying everybody come home if you're not here already, kind of thing.
Right.
That's when he's talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I gotcha.
So we ended up, like say, had a couple of days where we spent in the shop, trying to figure out what was going on.
Yep.
And the phone just went like flip a light switch. Like our phone was disconnected.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is kind of, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes back to that episode here, that we talked about a few weeks ago, Eric, about, like having, how can you afford to hire a guy?
Yeah.
Having that little bit of bank money set aside. And I was like, well, you know what? This is what we've always said we had the money for. And, paid the guys to stick around. And it was, like say about a week into that, I'm going, huh. And then it was just from that point till now, it's just been uphill since.
Yeah.
So it
started a lot slow. I mean, it wasn't like it took a little while to heat up.
It did. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't see anything on our end. We were off for, as far as our install crews, they were off for a good month. As far as, because people were so heavily
nervous about it.
Yeah. They didn't know what was going to happen. And so, we for a month basically didn't really do many installs at all. It was just strictly service. I rebuilt a boat during that time, so that was kind of fun as far as having that.
Well, but that was also something also big happened, maybe either at that time or very shortly after in your life, right?
Yep.
Which kind of was a little bit of an impetus to make some changes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. My wife and I, we had our daughter, and we had her during COVID. What a weird experience that was too, though, because of not even knowing if I was going to be able to be in the delivery room as far as that. And my wife and I, we've been married since 2010. We've been together since 2008. We had to go through infertility treatments to actually have our daughter, and now she's 2. But yeah, that was weird as far as going through the whole thing. Like, sir, you're not going to be able to be in the room. And okay, now you're going to be in the room. But what was funny is they did the whole thing of making you wear a mask while you're in there. And so when I was in the chair, to the side of the bed, the nurse would come in, the first nurse, and I put my mask up, and she's instantly like, "Oh, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Just, you can put it down. No big deal." And every other nurse after that was the same way. The only person that was really adamant about me wearing it was the cleaning lady. But anyways, so we had our daughter, and then that's where things kind of, a light bulb for me more or less went off in terms of, I don't really want to have this gigantic company where I'm tied to it. I'm always going to be tied to the company, but I just have to have a way of managing it so I can be home a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that's, of course, like I said, I've said it many times, people listen know I don't have that experience. I've worked for those companies though, and I'd like to say that I at least can observe and understand enough and get to know you guys and friends and family around the different industries and stuff. There's got to be a point in which everybody has a little bit of that, like, do I want to keep doing this way?
Yeah.
Whether they're having issues or not, right?
Right, exactly. And I mean, you can look at it from a standpoint of, and people say it all the time. It's like those people you see on the TV shows that talk about they win the lottery, and they're like, oh, you get all this money. And then it turns out, well, that doesn't really make you all that happy. You can be the richest person in the world with only having $25 in your bank account. And so in terms of your friends, your family, and things like that, and life experiences. And so I just look at it from a standpoint of managing expectations in terms of what you're expecting on both ends of the spectrum. If you're going to be this big giant company, great, and you have all this money, awesome. Your home life might suck, but you also could have a home life where you're home every night. You're not taking every single job that comes across your doorstep, because you don't necessarily have to do that. I've kind of switched things and done a little fork in the road where I focus more now on a quality install that might take me longer. And in turn, it might, as far as the price point might be a little bit different because my labor is going to be more intensive on it because I'm on there longer. But at the end of the day, I'm not having to jump from job to job to job to job to job to job just to stay busy kind of deal. So, and I'm not away from home 24/7.
Yeah. That's where we're at right now, having 3 guys and myself. I've recently pulled out of the field except 2 days. So Monday, Tuesday is my days in the field, and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is office. And I sometimes look at that and go, God, that's pretty gravy. Because it's like I get to choose that, but it's like the same thing. You got to make that sacrifice and say, okay, this is what I have to do in order to keep this mental game up.
Right. Yeah.
Because I was at that point where it was like, Thursday, Friday, and then we would look at jobs on Thursday, Friday. And so then it was like, well, I'm going to go out and look at 5 jobs. And by the time I get back in the office, I could create or could finish 2 or 3, project designs.
Right.
Well, I just, doubled my workload every week. And then, and then you get Cheryl's getting the calls from the customers going, hey, your husband was out and looked at this job like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Is he going to send me a quote?
Yeah, where's the quote?
And you've forgotten about it basically at that point, mentally at least. I mean, it wasn't like you're not sitting there going, I should do that,
Exactly.
You knew it had to be done.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But like I could look at my House Call Pro right now and there's 19 estimates that I need to finish.
I'm in the same boat.
That's
right
that's like and I'm like, oh my God, I can't get anything done.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you go, well, what is the reason for looking at these jobs?
Yeah.
Are we doing this because this is a profitable job that we want to go do, or are we doing this because
we just need the work?
All I'm worried about is filling the holes.
Yeah.
See, we need to, not today, not right now. Yeah. We're going to start wrapping this up, but we need to talk about that. And Denver, you need to be on for that episode.
Yeah.
We talked about this a while ago. And I kind of proposed this idea where you got to find the right customer, or you might, or the other converse of that would be like, are you the right contractor for your customer?
Right.
And it kind of plays into this whole, why am I doing this job?
Yeah.
Am I just trying to keep busy? Am I going to make good money? Is this the kind of work we want to do? Because those are the things that Andy and I talked about. And that it's just weird to talk about that. Like, like you're better than this, or you don't want this because you want that kind of scenario.
Right.
But it plays into what you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
And so you had your daughter. And you reassessed everything. You're like, look, I don't, forgive me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but just tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I don't want to keep going at this pace because now I've got a different, my priorities have changed now.
Exactly.
So you've had your daughter, and you said, my priorities are a little bit different.
Yep.
You're in the midst of like, you had most of your people back working, but it's looking like it's not going to slow down anytime soon.
Exactly.
So how did you make that decision? Like ultimately in the time frame of like what we've just, what I've just framed there, like we're in COVID. All 3 of us, we can say this is a factual statement. We've never been busier.
Yeah. I was, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Per person, like per scale. Right.
Yep.
And so like you could get rid of all your guys. You're still just as busy as you ever were.
Exactly.
Or you could put 5 more on, and, because at the time, or at least it's a little different today than it was, 6 months ago or a year ago, but it's so busy. How did you make that decision to say, I'm not going to be big anymore?
Yep.
Like, what did you have to do ultimately?
Yeah. So my biggest year to date, and like I said, we've been in business since 2010, but my biggest year was COVID. As far as a profit and whatnot. We made a boatload of money that year. And it kind of stemmed from that point in terms of my dad was wanting to essentially fully 100% get away from the company and not be involved in any way, shape, or form anymore. He still is now. He helps me out part-time on jobs. Like if I got to get something out of a basement and I need a hand with lifting something, he'll help me out or something like that. He currently goes away to Arizona in the winters and stuff like that. So, but it stemmed from him wanting to completely get out of it. And it was like, okay, well, if he leaves, then I have to 100% manage now the commercial crew, because that's what he was kind of doing, is managing that crew of 2 guys or 3 guys. And then I had the 2 residential crews. And it was like, okay, well, one, I'm not going to do this commercial stuff because I'm not traveling 4 hours away for a week at a time on these projects. So that's where it started. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed. I had a couple guys that left for, which everybody seems to be doing. That's like the popular thing now, to jump for $1 here, $1 there kind of stuff, even though you get treated great at the company you're at. But, no fault to them. But I had 2 guys that ended up leaving, and then took on some more guys. And then it was like, okay, now I'm training all these guys. So now I'm back in the field. It's like, I could just do this myself in half the time, and I'll be home by 3:30 or something like that, as far as doing a full change out, and I'm home, and it's a good quality install, and everybody's, happy, and it's good. And so that's kind of where it started in my head, as far as, my dad left, commercial crew. I ended up basically saying, hey, we're done with that. I'm not traveling. And then it just kind of snowballed into where it's at now. So I slowly dwindled it from two residential crews and 1 commercial crew, with two full-time service techs as well. I'm a firm believer in, you have to have 1 service tech per crew as far as install crew. That's how I got started in this industry, as far as the service tech works and keeps the install guy busy. You can't depend on the sales guy. I don't like that slimy sales pitch type stuff where we're in your own, we're going to bring out all these, freaking billboards and, all that stuff. So I've always been the type where the service tech drives the sales, in terms of this area and this market. Not from a standpoint of commission sales. I've never done commission for anybody. We'll give a guy a commission if he sells a furnace, but it's peanuts kind of deal. They get a good hourly wage. They get good health benefits, all that stuff. And so we ended up going from the 1 commercial, 2 residential, got rid of commercial, and then slowly got rid of the 1 residential. And then basically where we're at now, as far as me, 1 other guy, part-time guy, stuff is falling in the shop over there. And
something just failed up.
And then, that's what it was. That's where we're at now. And it's been good.
Andy's got ghosts.
He does.
Andy has ghosts in his office there. Well, no, that's interesting. Believe it or not, it's not something I've talked about yet on the show here, but it got brought up a few different times over the last couple of months, and my hair didn't stand up on my neck when I started talking about it. I didn't immediately bust out into hives, but I've talked about hiring somebody.
Yeah.
And it's going to be for Andy's favorite plumbing related activity. But I might be putting I'm probably putting the cart before the horse here, but I might be putting a van on the road and outfitted just simply for drain
cleaning. Yeah.
And because I've listened to you, I've listened to other friends that are very, have insight and experience in this whole scenario, in not getting too big too fast. Obviously, that's not my scenario by any means.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at expanding, and very pragmatic look at it is, this is what I think is probably the best for business.
Right.
Because I can control it.
Yep.
I can look at my experience with it since COVID happened. That first couple of weeks when the phone stopped ringing, that's when I started doing it officially.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And since that point, I'm like, man, there's money to be made in this industry.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so I thought, more recently thought, this is, I think, how my business moves forward, not abandoning what I'm doing by any means.
Right.
Because we're doing fine. We're doing great. We love how everything works out the way we've set it up. But I think if I leave town, travel, do the mechanical hub thing, this is a sector of, this is a part of the business that really just never goes away.
Right.
The heating stuff is always going to be there if it's heating season. I get that.
Yep.
But there is so much competition for that. If I don't answer my call, they've already called 3 other people, right? So
exactly. Yeah.
The drain stuff, I think I can have somebody here and I can have them, let them I don't know. The sky's the limit, basically. We'll see. I'm not going to make the mistake of, getting too big. Obviously,
Yeah.
that should be obvious.
Well, and that's where you see a lot of those younger guys on, and I'm in that category. I'm only 34. A lot of these younger hotshot guys who, everybody thinks that they can do anything just with a universal EPA card, it seems like. And so these guys, they think that they can do anything and everything, and it never works out. It just never does. And so you have to be able to just manage expectations always. And you have to, it's not just for your company, it's for your customer as well.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. I feel like one of the things, the common things that I keep coming back to over the years of, going to a seminar or learning about business is that not everything applies in every demographic area.
Exactly.
You've got to, like Eric's saying, there's so much competition in your heating market, and that you almost have to look at it and go, well, that's a unique thing to my area.
Mm-hmm.
Where your area has fewer drain cleaners, otherwise the drain cleaning might not be quite as lucrative.
Right.
If there was 75 drain cleaning companies in Elk River,
right,
there wouldn't be a demand for it.
Right.
You'd just pick up everybody. And kind of like what Denver's saying is, in his area, there's a number of heating companies that are there to pick up snatch up anything that somebody misses.
Right.
And that's something that I guess we've noticed here lately is we've had 3 or 4 companies in our area, service companies, that have quit doing what I do.
Right.
And all of a sudden we're like inundated with, like all of their work, all of their customers, their lifelong customers.
Yep.
It's really weird. So the company that I used to work for 13 years ago, quit doing service last fall.
Wow.
Right. They're just done.
Yeah.
They
were at one point, a 60-man shop, doing lots of commercial, lots of industrial, and residential, some high-end custom stuff. And they, lost a service tech. They lost me 10 years ago. Found a couple other guys have been in and out, and they ended up losing 2 techs in a short period of time.
Right.
And they didn't really have, that they had a couple of techs, and they were like, you know what? No, we're done with service.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I still haven't quite wrapped my head around how you
that's
get
where
to
the money.
It is where the money is. And it's the same thing too, though, as far as like going back to a regional situation. And that's a whole thing that goes into managing what you can do as a company, because what ends up happening is like I was saying, my area where I'm at is predominantly vacation homes. And so there's not people here all the time. So if you're wanting to do all these change outs and all this work and service and all that kind of stuff, you're going to have to.
It's so seasonal.
Yeah. You're going to have to expand further and further away from home base.
Yep.
Because it's so up and down. So you end up over promising and under delivering to a customer because you have a gazillion guys, and then you're like, oh, hey, yeah, we can do that, blah, 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 blah. But then what happens when all the jobs dry up because everybody went south for the winter, So then it's like, okay, well, now you got all these guys that you just hired because you got too big too quick, and now you're screwed.
Well, and that's, let's, that's where you either have to make the decision. And, 5 years ago, it was, well, I guess I'll just lay them off.
Right.
Today,
that, yeah.
Well, today, can you? Right? Because are you ever going to get them back?
Exactly.
That was a worry 5 years ago, too, but it's different.
It's different now. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we are coming up on the way too long mark. But this has been a cool conversation, Denver. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me.
Learn. Great perspective, really. Just the idea that, do you want to get too big, or what are the reasons you want to be big, and kind of what you deal with it. And I appreciate it. I really do. I think people are gonna like this one. Andy, what fell on your floor behind you?
I have no idea. I haven't turned around to look yet. It didn't sound heavy. I think it was one of my sound tiles.
Oh, okay.
Must have popped off the wall and hit the metal trim. But it scared the hell out of me because I was like, whoa,
One episode you had an air compressor starting. Now you got stuff falling off the walls.
Oh boy, pick on Andy Day.
Hey, at least Andy. At least Andy
full
really
of
talked a lot more when with this episode. As far as every time there's a guest on, it seems like he's quiet.
Hey, are you saying I talk too much?
No, not at all. Not at all. I tend to talk quite a bit too. It seems like, I don't know.
Yeah, you did. You talked a lot.
I am a gabber. Yeah, I definitely gab.
No. I'm hitting stop right now, guys. Have a good one.
All right, see ya.
Don't go anywhere, Denver.
Nope.